Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Molly. I'm a maker based out of the San Francisco Bay Area, where I live with my fiance and our cat Lola. On this channel, I talk about all things knitting and fiber related, so if that's the kind of thing you're into, I hope you'll stick around. Today, I'm going to make good on a promise I made in my Make 9 and 2025 goals video to start auditing my yarn stash. I said that once a month I would go through one of the boxes or bins or drawers or whatever that I have of yarn and decide what I want to keep, what I want to get rid of, what I want to make with it, all that good stuff. I want to make sure that it's in Ravelry, probably take photos of it so that I have those for myself. And in case anybody wants to buy any of my will trade or sell yarn, I might consider what projects I want to make with it, although probably not. So today I'm actually going to go through 3 of my bins of yarn. None of them are that full. This one has barely anything in it, and I know almost all of it is in my stash already. I'm a month late. If you'll remember from my what I made in 2024 video, my January got a little bit derailed by traveling at the very beginning. After that, I got the flu. Like right when I got home, I got sick, and then I had a lot of actual work deadlines at the end of the month. So I'm gonna go through 3 vessels of yarn. Just if anybody's wondering about the general size of my stash, these bins are this big. This is like an IKEA thing. Probably like 20, 30 inches long. But I have 4 of these. And then this bin, 2 underbed like drawers, 2 like IKEA cube storage, like felt things. I guess they're like cube storage bins, and a variety of yarn kind of in a few different places. Like I have some yarn in my bookshelf right here. I have some yarn in various drawers. I have a couple places where I have scraps, but I'm mostly going to focus on the full skeins or the yarn that I've put in here, which isn't all full skeins, but things that I have a decent quantity of. Mostly my scraps are like 15 grams and under, probably. There's 2 really exciting sort of general updates that are not things I've talked about yet on the channel. One of them isn't really that relevant except for when it comes to destashing. It's just exciting to me personally. The first is that I got an e-spinner. So for my birthday, which was a couple weeks ago when you see this, I asked my fiance to get me an EEW 6.1. So I have an e-spinner now. I have been spinning yarn like a crazy person, and as a result, eventually I'll have yarn that I'm able to knit with for like normal projects. Probably smaller ones first. I'm not very good. My yarn right now could be charitably described as art yarn, although I think the next couple skeins I'm gonna make will be like very usable. But I will have yarn coming into my stash that I am spinning, and I have a lot of fiber coming. Fiber takes up a lot of space. Like those fiber braids are much larger than the like 100-gram ball of yarn that comes out when you spin it. So that is something I need more storage space for. I also really have not been knitting, like since I got the e-spinner. I think I'd also just kind of finished my big sweater project at the time, or the knitting of it at least. So it was sort of a lull in my projects, and then I got this e-spinner and was like promptly obsessed and couldn't stop myself from spinning. So I've barely picked up the needles in days. That also, I think, now that I've included this other hobby that's fiber related that makes yarn, I want to make sure that I'm not like overloaded with yarn that I already probably won't use for a while. The other thing, and the less relevant thing to you all, is that 2 of my close friends have become pretty into fiber arts. These are 2 of my friends from high school and earlier. They still live in the area. We all grew up here together. And one of them is knitting now. Her sister has been a knitter for quite a while, but she finally jumped on the bandwagon. and the other one has been crocheting. I know she's dabbled in knitting as well. So I have people who I can potentially offload some of these yarns on. Like, I'm gonna ask them, I won't give them things they don't want. I don't want to make my problem their problem, but if there's anything in my stash that they want, I think I'll probably give them. For most of these things that I might give away throughout my process, they might get first dibs on just taking the yarn. Neither of them, I don't think, are super interested in fingering weight yarn, which is the bulk of what I use, but I do have some worsted yarn, some thicker yarn that they might be interested in, and we'll see. Of course, I'll probably try to sell some of these yarns. Some I might give away in free Facebook groups. The thing about selling is that it's a lot more effort on my part, because generally speaking, I'm selling to people who are not local, so I have to mail it and I have to like keep up with the post wherever I put it. I've had the most luck on Reddit's yarn swap site, but some of these things that I'm not like super excited about using but not ready to like immediately try to destash, I might put it on Ravelry as like will trade or sell, just to see if anybody ever wants to grab it. So now that we've talked about all those logistical things, let's go ahead and get into the bins and talk about what I plan to do. So I have my iPad here, I have my scale here, and I think what I'm gonna do is write down the yarn that I have and how much of it I have just in this document, and I'll enter it into Ravelry later. I will take pictures when I'm done filming and make sure that I then update all of my Ravelry stash. I will make sure to share at the end the yardage, the types of yarn, the grams, all the details about the yarn that I am looking at today. So without further ado, let's get started with this IKEA bin. It's on my bed now, which is over here because it was so tall you couldn't even see it, and definitely too tall for me to get to up here. So this particular like bin, I typically put yarn that I'm planning on using soon into it. So I'll put things that are part of my Make 9, projects I'm going to cast on, things I either want to cake up or have caked up recently. And like, because it's easily accessible, a little bit more easily accessible than most of my bins. Maybe not than the IKEA like fabric drawer things, but than most of the things. So this only has 3 things in it right now. To start off with, I have this Simply Wool worsted twist that I just made my September sweater with. I ended up having much more yarn than I was expecting. I just actually weighed this before I started filming, and I have 279 grams left. I think my sweater was like 460 or something like that. Yeah, that makes sense. So each of the skeins that I weighed, with the exception of the one I started knitting, which I think is this one, were a little over 100 grams. So I think in the end I probably had between 730 and like 770 grams as opposed to 700 grams, because these are each 100 gram skeins. This is 100% wool yarn. It's currently discontinued in this style, but there are other styles. I've talked about this yarn many times. And I think that this is one of the first things that my friends might actually be interested in. I don't know exactly what I'll make with this small quantity. I may just put it up on my Ravelry as trade or sell if my friends aren't interested, or I may try to sell it on Yarn Swap. But this is yarn that I feel pretty comfortable parting with. I worked a whole sweater in it and I'm ready to let it go. So that's easy. This is also pretty easy. This bag is Barocco Modern Cotton DK in the colorway Fort Adams, I think. I want to say that the color is named that. It's 6671. This is a cotton yarn. It's 335 yards per 100 grams, and it's 60% Pima cotton, 40% modal rayon. I have written on here how much it is. I have 4 skeins that should be 1,340 yards. I store most of my yarn in bags that I then reuse over and over for new yarn because I want to make sure that I'm not attracting any sort of moths or beetles, and that if I am, hopefully they stay relatively contained. So most of my yarn is in bags, but I do reuse them. I try to be good about it. That I planned on making the Ardea in, and it's been on my radar and on my list for a long time. So this will stay in this bin because I think it will be something that I use soon. The last things I have in this bin are new acquisitions that I got, like basically right before I left for the holidays in December. Although I ordered them long before, because these are Explorer Knits and Fiber Farmers Market collection yarns, plus one that I want to use with that. So my Farmers Market haul was 2 skeins of the colorway Potato Potato in the earthy sock base. This is a non-superwash merino yarn, and it's 436 yards per 100 grams. This was the colorway that made me convinced I needed to buy yarn from this collection. The other ones I got were the colorway In Bloom on Denali sock. This is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and 400 yards per 100 grams. This is like a pretty typical sock yarn 2-ply base that I think a lot of dyers use either this same base or something similar. I don't know where it comes from, but there's a lot of 80-20, 100 gram, 400 yard skeins out there. Lastly, I got Catch of the Day on Cashmere Cavern sock, which is 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. And this is the colorway Catch of the Day, which I think I might have already said. And my plan is to use it with this skein of Darjeeling sock by Earl Grey Fiber Co. This is a 75-25 yarn, superwash merino nylon, and it's 100 grams and 463 yards. This is a Black Squirrel Berkeley exclusive colorway. It'll block out, and I picked this up to use as a contrast color in something eventually because Earl Grey Fiber is, I believe, no longer dyeing, and I wanted to make sure that I got my hands on some of it. So let me go ahead and weigh these yarns, and I can go ahead and tell you how much of these I have. In this first bin, I had 1,618 grams and 5,913 yards of yarn. There were 6 lots, and I'm giving 1 lot away, and that lot has 279 grams and 608 yards. I guess I'll just quickly talk about my plans. I will try to destash this. I will either try to sell it. Well, first I'll offer it to my friends. I might try to sell it if they do not want it. And then this Explorer Knits in Fibers is going to go into my fingering weight bin. I kind of have 2, but it's going to go in the fingering weight bin that I'm looking through today. So I will have told you by now how much yarn I was hoarding in this bin. And let's go ahead and move on to the next vessel, which I believe is an assortment of, yeah, mostly scraps actually. In this bag I have Marisol Wikla, which is a cotton alpaca, like bulky yarn. It's kind of like, I would say, on the Aran bulky line. I've made a cowl out of this that I talked about on this channel, and these are the leftovers. Let me just check my Ravelry really fast, because I feel like I might have weighed these and put them in. I have. So I know that I have 40 grams of the calcite and 70 grams of the garnet. This I have no particular plans for at the moment. I'll probably put them as to will trade or sell on my Ravelry with photos, just in case anybody wants a little bit of these, until I maybe make something for them. They're not great for gifts just because they're not washable, so we'll go ahead and figure that one out later. Next I have some Wool of the Andes bulky, superwash bulky. I want to say this color is like bamboo heather maybe. I've made a few baby items out of this, and I think this is all I have left. I have 68 grams. I have discovered this I might try to make like a baby hat out of or something similar. I've been toying with the idea of making like a gift bin or something, like a place where I can keep yarns that I want to use for gifts, and I would probably put this there. So I'll put this off to the side for the moment. Next I have a skein and a little bit, I think, of this Bouton d'Or Cassar, which I think is a camel yarn, camel and wool, 50% camel, 50% wool, and it is 50 grams and 91 yards. I made a self-drafted pullover out of this minus one sleeve, which I should probably go find and rip out because I've never worn it. It's not done. I don't even really know where it is right now, but if I find it, frogging it might be the next move. So there's 81 grams of this, and I will hold on to it. It's very soft and nice. That's not something I plan on getting rid of. Next up, I have some Journey Tweed from Knit Picks. This is a Bear Sport-ish weight yarn. It's 274 yards per 100 grams. And this is 35% alpaca, 35% merino, 15% tussa silk, and 50% Donegal neps. And I was hoping to use this for natural dyeing experiments, which I still think I will probably do. So this can go back in there. Next up is some Bear Swish DK. This I also plan to dye with. I have 233 grams, and I am going to hold on to this for the moment. I think I had 3 skeins, and then I ended up using one. So that can just go straight back in here. This is a yarn that's like so old it doesn't appear in Ravelry. It's something I got from a family friend. I made some baby stuff out of it. I don't know, the labels are gone, but this is like a cotton acrylic blend that's like a worsted Aran weight, and I couldn't find it on Ravelry when I looked, I don't think. So I'll write down how much there is. I think I'll put this off to the side maybe as like a gift yarn thing as well. This is leftover Wool of the Andes tweed from when I made my Be Thankful cardigan, my second one. All right, I have 21 grams of that. Will trade or sell that just in case anybody needs some extra. These are Knit Picks Upcycle 100% wool worsted yarns. I freehanded a bubble sweater out of them, and I think I have already put in Ravelry the amounts that I have of these left because I've weighed them at various points. Yeah, so I don't think this is true anymore. The amounts I have on here are wrong, so well, maybe I'll find some more of this as I'm going through my stash, but I don't think I will. So there's that one. This is Valley Yarns Northampton, I believe. I used it for my Lodestar, and I believe I just broke into this one. Yep, okay, I have 50 grams exactly of this one. I'll probably for trade or sell that one as well. And then just a couple things left in here. This is the leftover Knit Picks Kindred DK from my Moonsap pullover. This is a discontinued alpaca cotton DK yarn from Knit Picks. I'm seeing less yarn than I think I have. This is one where I believe, like I think I see some in my scrap bin. This one has like made its way kind of all over the place because this was from a project that I frogged a million times. But I have 81 grams of it here. I think what I might do is just put it back there for later. I will trade or sell that, or I might also make a little shawl or something out of it. I have this Cloudborne kettle dyed Highland DK that I made a sweater out of. Okay, I have 37 grams. The one thing is that the neckline on that sweater isn't like my absolute favorite the way that I did it, so I've been holding on to this just in case I want to redo it, and I'll keep doing that. Breaking into the last bag, this is the yarn that I actually held with that kettle dyed yarn. This is Knit Picks Aloft lace weight in Sydney hand painted, and let's see, I have 33 grams of that left. This I will hold on to. I also have 2 other mohairs in here. I think I have more of some of these, but this is one. I used this in my ranunculus. I know that this is this is Lana Grossa Silk Hair. This I will hold on to. I've been thinking about doing a scrappy mohair project at some point, so I'll keep this. And last but not least, this is also Lana Grossa Silk Hair. I have 18 grams of both of those. This bin is definitely looking smaller. I took out the things that I want to put up for trade or sell. Will pause this and tell you how much yarn I have in grams and yards in this bin as well. The total here was 1,035 grams and 2,719 yards across 17 lots. I have 4 to give away, which add up to 187 grams and 1,409 yards, and 4 to put up for trade or sell on Ravelry. My last bin is fingering weight, mostly. I have a good amount of Cloudborne yarn, or I have 2 in here. The others are elsewhere, but Cloudborne was a yarn that was becoming discontinued on webs shortly after I started knitting, so I bought a bunch of their yarn. This is a merino sock, and this is a Highland sock. I have a bunch more of the Highland sock elsewhere. I probably would for trade or sell this. So I have 98 grams of this. I believe I used this as a contrast color in a sock, but I barely broke into it. Those I think I will probably put up for trade or sell. This and these are West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply. And I know that I used some of this one for a pair of socks. I'm really drawn to the colors of this, but I've not quite been able to figure out what I want to do with it. So I think this is one I will potentially offer to my friends or try to sell. So I'll put this over here. The thing about this is I have a lot of like single socks. So, and I have a lot of Knit Picks Felici that came from these socks that I have not knit. What is happening here? I have a yarn ball that's like, this is interesting. Oh, okay. I wound 2 balls together. So I have a lot of Knit Picks Felici, and I don't really know how to handle this because some of these are from socks that I finished. Some of them are from socks that I did not finish. It's hard for me to know if and when I will finish those pairs of socks because I'm kind of not in the mood. But this is a self-striping sock yarn, and I really don't know what to say or do about this. Like, I know I made 2 socks out of this colorway. Maybe will trade or sell that. I don't know if anybody wants scraps of sock yarn that's self-striping. I really don't know what to do with it otherwise. This one I know I broke into as well, but I know I didn't finish the other sock. God, this is like part of why I really didn't want to examine this. Oh, here's another ball of... Is this the one I would be knitting my sock from? Actually, maybe. Basically what I did is I made 2 identical balls. I might add this one to my granny squares and put these in my scraps. That's what I'm gonna do. And then I have some black Knit Picks Stroll. This one I have 98 grams of, and I think that these were the 2 balls I was going to make socks out of. And this is the extra. So I actually might see if I can sell this. So I'll put this here. Okay. I think I'll put my, okay. And then this one, I know I made one sock, and I believe these are the leftovers. What I think I'm gonna try to do is save the like quantities of yarn that I need to still make a sock in. This is extra from one of the pairs of socks. And I may use it in a shawl, so I'm gonna keep that. I will probably for trade or sell these. This is some new yarn. This is Ginger Twist Studio Sheepish Sock, which is a BFL sock base, and I have the colorway Parma Violets. Ooh, that's a generous 116 gram hank. This is the waifu yarns that I've talked about on this channel a few times, wanting to use. This is some extra Knit Pick Stroll. I have two John Arbin Textiles Exmoor sock that I got at Ginger Twist Studio in Edinburgh, which is not where I bought this particular skein of Ginger Twist Studio yarn. This one, just fun fact. I have two skeins of Biscot yarn sock. I have a self-striping. I want to say this means like wings of a butterfly or something. In French, this is mostly in it's in French and English, but the yarn name is in French. And I got this 50 gram emerald skein to go with it. I was thinking I would sell this going in, but I don't think that I can make myself part with this yet. This is a one-of-a-kind sock mini from Casey Knits. I think this is the only one I have in here. I might have another one somewhere. And then I have a variety of Lang Yawal in this thing here. Now I've made some socks out of these. I've used some various amounts of them. I have not used the white at all, but I will just weigh these out. I do want to keep these, I think. I got these at Loop in London. At the time, I don't recall being able to find this yarn very much, but they are in stock at Black Squirrel Berkeley now, so that's kind of funny. But I think I might try to do like a color work something out of these. I really liked making the leftover city cowl, so maybe I'll make another one of those, but these feel special even though they're not actually a special yarn in the end, and now it's very available around me, but I'm going to hold on to these. Also in this bin, I'm going to put my Explorer Knits and Fibers yarn for now. I have another bin of sock yarn or fingering weight yarn that is like less socky, but for the moment that's really full. So these are going to stay here. All right, so I have a good amount of yarn that I like want to get rid of. I will come back and tell you how much it all is later. I have, let's see, I have some full or nearly full skeins that are things I'm ready to part with. I have some yarns that I want to move into some sort of gift knitting situation eventually. I have some yarns that are more like the will trade or sell, like I'm happy to get rid of my scraps if you want them type yarns. And I will go ahead and photograph those. I will tally up the numbers, and I will probably do some sort of voiceover of me maybe taking some yarn photos and figuring out what I'm gonna do from here. So hopefully these will be yarns that are interesting to people, and maybe my friends will like them, and I'll be able to get some things out. I'm glad to have finally started this process. I do kind of feel these like overwhelming desires to like yarn audit every once in a while and throw my yarn around, but I think that this is probably a better way to go about it. So I think I'll probably take photos on my iPad because I'm using my phone and stuff for this, and do a little bit of B-roll to wind you out of this one, give me some time to share some stats that I will come up with later, and I'm curious to hear what those are myself at this point in time. If you liked this video, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel. I make videos once or twice a month about knitting, and I'd be really happy to have you. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. This final bin had 1,483 grams and 6,486 yards. There were 22 lots, all fingering. I have 4 lots that I'm going to give away actively and 1 to put up for trade or sell on Ravelry. The final total was 4,136 grams and 15,118 yards of yarn, which adds up to 8.6 miles or 13.8 kilometers. I had 61 lots of yarn, 9 of which I am giving away, and my friend agreed to take all of it. That is 769 grams and 2,420 yards total. That makes up 16% of the yarn from today. Right now, I have 5 lots to give away as to trade or sell on Ravelry if anyone wants them, and I might end up actively gifting them or selling them to someone later. That's it for today. I hope you'll stick around and see what my bins look like next month. See ya.